get it to you. Like, what do you mean? How does that format look? You want me to just
Well,
describe
I'll
it?
just I'll just describe it. And that'll be fine.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, we're live then. Welcome to
Right.
episode 133 of WP Roundtable. My name's Kyle, and I'm here with Mr. Brady Nord. How are you doing today, Brady?
Good. Good. Glad to be here.
I am so glad you could join me and pretty excited for our discussion. Brady is the co-founder of MOJO Marketplace and the VP of product at Bluehost. He's been involved in a lot of pretty cool things, and I've got tons of questions for you. Actually, wearing my Bluehost shirt today as well. One of many Bluehost shirts in my wardrobe, and my Bluehost sunglasses, limited edition.
That's right.
I've got a Bluehost water bottle nearby. Pretty much been hooked up by Bluehost with not just web hosting, great web hosting over the years. So that's going to be a lot to talk about. Before we do,
Appreciate it.
let's jump into our quick picks of the week real fast. This is just part of our show where we share something new that we've come across that we feel like it's worth mentioning. One of the things that I've been into lately is a lot of podcasts, but one that a good friend of mine, local here in Michigan, Ian Wilson, started up a podcast called Step 3. It's accessible at buildcreate.com/step3. It's a pretty useful and insightful business podcast by my friend who runs a pretty successful web agency there based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and talks a lot about some of the interesting experiences he's had with a few great guests. And he's doing really good with the post-production and sharing some very compelling stories, lessons that we face working in a digital field with distributed teams or challenging relationships in the workplace, all kinds of cool stuff. So I think he's doing a great job, and I just want to support his show. So check out Step 3 on iTunes. Brady, do you have a quick pick to share with us?
I do. Actually, I'm going to share it on my phone here, and hopefully it comes across in the video. But it's I'm giving a shout out to, hopefully I don't screw up his name, Victor Peroff. He worked for the Mozilla Foundation, but I think I saw this the other day on Twitter, and it reminded me a lot of the challenges I see every day. But hopefully this comes through. But
wow,
he describes how anytime he approaches a technical problem, he says, when I prematurely over-engineer my code. And I saw that, and it kind of was like, I think anybody that's developed anything can relate to that bike gif there. There's a way simpler way you can probably do it, and I think as programmers, if you have any programming background at all, you tend to do that, and you kind of have fun with it. But I don't know. I retweeted that because I was like, I very much can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely. It's fascinating, I think, getting into software development, all the challenges that we experience that can be hard to explain to non-software developers, but just things like that, these transparent problems that we're trying to solve, and the fact that there isn't any one right way to solve all these problems. So we can re-engineer basically infinitely.
I know that, and that's what's so unique about that. Like, he's riding a bike. I mean, he still is. I guess maybe it's not a bike at that point, but he's riding some sort of locomotive, and he's moving from here to there. And by some people's definition, the problem was solved. Clearly not as effective as it could have been. But anyway, I thought that was creative. I like that.
Yeah, that's super cool. Thanks for sharing, Brady.
Yeah.
So let's dive into your background a little bit. For anybody who's tuning in who doesn't happen to know all about you and your history, let's learn a little bit about how you got where you are today. What I want to particularly know, and where we could start, is if we went back to long before you were working on the web or with EIG and MOJO, when your career really hadn't even gotten started yet. What is it that your ambitions looked like at the time? You said, this is what I want to do with my life. And how did you go about getting started with it?
My background has nothing to do with what I do today. So I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I think most high school kids, I just went to a public high school here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and was into sports, but just, I don't know, not like some crazy sports person or anything. Just pretty normal guy, I feel like. But went into college, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I went to the University of Utah first and spent I don't even know what I declared my major for initially, but after going there for a couple of years, doing like I did the whole like Greek row thing and was in a fraternity. I because all my older brothers were in one, and then I probably started in like marketing or something generic like that, some sort like saying I was going to go into business school, and then I actually when did this happen? I switched and decided to. Well, here's a unique thing about Utah. From Utah, there's the Mormon church here, and everybody knows pretty much Mormon missionaries, and they go all over the world. They're the guys knocking on your doors. And most people around here, most young guys, they learn a language, and they know most languages around here. One of the languages that none of them really knew, though, is Arabic, because that's a place that the Mormon church does not send missionaries. I think just kind of for obvious war-torn reasons, but maybe just the risk of it. But so I had this idea thinking, well, if I can't find some sort of business school objective that I want to do, marketing, whatever it is, if I learn Arabic, I will be one of the only people around here that know Arabic, that are American born, and at least in my community, there's not very many. It's not a high culture of Arab background people at all.
Right.
So anyway, so I had that was kind of my logic, and so I ended up transferring and went to UCLA for a year and did an Arabic program there, and then after that came back to University of Utah, and University of Utah is a really great internship program, and my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, actually, we both moved over to Amman, Jordan, and I worked for the Jordanian government and did lots of work with NGOs and United Nations and things like that with their legal team, and spent roughly 5 months there, and then came back to Utah. My wife was in the Arabic program also, graduated, and that was literally my background. It was like I knew I could stand out if I could speak fluently in Arabic in my community. So that was kind of the backup plan. The weird part about it is the week I got back from Jordan, I ran into one of my old high school friends, J.R. Farr, and that is literally where we started having the conversation of MOJO. I just went to a coffee shop and saw him there, and he was like on a lunch break or something. He was working at an ad agency just around the corner, and we just kind of did the whole like catch up because we haven't seen each other for a while, and just started talking about WordPress and decided, hey, let's talk about maybe building a marketplace. That was literally the beginnings of it. I went from very like Arabic. I ended up graduating in political science and Arabic, and I figured if I can learn Arabic, like this whole PHP thing is going to be really simple. And that was kind of my understanding of it. So that's my background. It's really out there and I don't know that I draw upon it at all anymore. I actually can't stand politics now.
Wow. Well, I wouldn't say you're in a very select group for that, but I'm curious. It feels like there's missing pieces to this story. So walk us through how you had the web and that PHP thing that you alluded to, and the fact that you knew about WordPress. How did that get introduced to your professional life in any way?
So I guess the one part I left out from how I was paying the bills, my dad was divorced, and my dad was kind of he traveled a lot. And so I kind of just living at my dad's house all through college. And I found a local company here that focused on, they were kind of like an ad agency, but in the hotel industry. And they had a need where they needed some of their hotels needed websites built. And somehow, I honestly can't remember how, somehow years ago, I was able to get a pretty exclusive contract with them to do the development work for them. I was probably 19 or 20 at the time. I'd never built a single website in my life. Didn't know how or anything like that. And what I ended up doing is just I ended up finding a small development shop up in Boise, Idaho, and got them in contract to do development work for me. And so I ended up just playing a middleman, and it funded me through most of my college. The hotel ad agency needed a new hotel website built, they would send it to me, and then I would just hand it off to this team in Boise. They would build it, and then I would bring it back and hand it off to them. And so I played middleman all through college, and that was my experience to just web development at all.
Wow.
I guess you could say I acted like a weird project manager running my own just business, but it was just I had that one contract, and that's what I lived off of it just fine. Didn't really do anything. I lucked out, honestly.
Yeah, that sounds like a quite fortunate position to be in, to not have to really hustle to find the next client as soon as you finish the first one.
Exactly. And after, I don't know, after probably 3-4 years, both parties kind of realized that I just ended up connecting the two. They realized they didn't need me anymore, but it worked out. So that was where I was originally introduced to it all.
So in that process, you kind of developed some skills. You were exposed to, this interesting world of building websites and
Yep.
helping small businesses and online. And so it was shortly after that you started to look into kind of doing your own thing independently, or you had that conversation with JR?
No, so let's see. I was doing that ad agency work, and then I went to Jordan, and I came back from Jordan, and that week I got back, I ran into JR, funny enough, so this is a random tangent of it. So JR's parents went through some, divorce and family issues as well, while mine went through it. And I mean, so I moved to Salt Lake when I was 14 or 15. JR was like the first person I ran into in math class when I moved to Salt Lake. And I went and sat down in math class, and I was not good at math. But he had like a 4-wheeler magazine on his desk, and I didn't know anybody because I grew up in northern Utah. But I look at him, and we ended up we just hit it off, became like best friends, like I don't know, 14, 15 or so, talking about, instead of listening to math, we just talked about tires to put on Jeeps and lifts and things like that. and so we were just, and then he ended up basically living at my house well over half the time. And so we very much were like brothers more than anything. And then when I got back from Jordan and I hadn't seen him for a little bit, it was kind of like we jumped right back into it of, WordPress at that time. It was about WordPress 2.7 or so when I started getting involved with it. But yeah, between JR and I, we both had a passion for WordPress and wanted to build something pretty cool.
So that sounds like an astounding coincidence, really, that you bumped into each other. Is that when you discovered, hey, we've both been learning about this? Was that really a true coincidence?
So I'd known of WordPress. I hadn't really used much of it, and everything up to that point we built custom. And he was working at an ad agency also just around the corner, and they were building some sites on WordPress, and he had some sites, and he mentioned it to me, and I was like, I've never used it, but I know it. And yeah, and that was kind of it. We both just kind of started. Jared and I are we're both very observant people just in nature. Like we might not have like our hands in everything, but we constantly like watching trends and markets and things like that. And we talk a lot about that. So it wasn't unnatural, I guess, to have that conversation just because WordPress was growing so much.
Did you collaborate on anything before breaking ground on MOJO Marketplace?
No, that was really the beginning of it.
Fascinating.
I know it. Honestly, when I look back, I'm like, wow, I can't believe that actually worked. And it really is, because the weird thing is after that meeting in the coffee shop, JR at the time, I think he had 3 kids at the time, and I was single. Well, I had a girlfriend, and the ad agency he was working at was just around the corner from my dad's house, and I was just living in the basement of my dad's house, going to college, just about to graduate. And I would sit in my dad's basement, and I wish I was at my other office. I have a bunch of stuff from the early days on my walls, but I would sit there and just with WordPress, we actually hired Daniel. Oh, what is his last name? He's a big WooCommerce developer now. At the time, he was a Magento developer. But Espinosa, yes. Yeah. Daniel Espinosa built version 1 of MOJO themes.
Wow.
And he knew nothing. I don't think he knew WordPress at all at the time. I think we introduced him to him because he was only building Magento sites. And then we came to him. We said, hey, look, we want to use WordPress because I wanted, Jay and I wanted to be able to we didn't know the code level at all at that point. And I wanted to be able to change the site and all that type of stuff. So we're like, we want a WordPress theme basically where people can buy products, and that we just had PayPal to checkout. We basically like dreamt up WooCommerce, built WooCommerce back in 2009. And then, and we didn't realize what we had. We had a lot of people actually contacting us quite frequently because it was basically a plugin, just like WooCommerce. The blend of WooCommerce and easy digital downloads actually is what MOJO Themes originally was.
Wow.
And Daniel built that, and then the irony of it, that Boise development team that I used to work for, after we released MOJO Themes, about 6 months later, we needed people to do development work for it. So I went back and tapped that old resource, and they ended up coming on as employees, and they still work for MOJO to this day.
That's amazing.
I know. So that it's kind of it's a really weird story. I don't know if you ever, on WP Candy, we did a big, I don't know if you remember that, but we did a big article like dissecting how we built MOJO Themes, because there was no plugins or things like that for WordPress to do those types of things back then. It was pretty cool.
That's amazing. And I'm curious about your thought process at the time, because I just got to know what you guys were envisioning and how you were coming up with these ideas when you're just, spitballing and saying, we're going to be the next, or this is going to work kind of like, what were things even like at the time? What's the precedent that you were looking at to inspire this sort of idea? Or did you really think we've got something here that is a need that's completely unserved?
Yeah. I can't honestly talk about MOJO Themes without mentioning ThemeForce. Like, as much as I don't want to, it was a big influence. And what the Envato team was doing was they were doing a lot of things really well. And I think Jay and I, we knew that there was plenty of space for another player there. And so what we did is we tried to find ways to differentiate ourselves. We built lots of cool features that, they were already the 800-pound gorilla, and they were there 7 years ago at least. I mean, they've been there a long time. But we were always kind of under the assumption that the Coke and Pepsi, that they both can succeed, and we can just do it slightly different. And so, I mean, from a mental component, we didn't raise money. We bootstrapped the whole thing, and I felt like I could out hustle anybody else. That was kind of where my mindset was. Like, I knew I was willing to work harder than anybody, and I knew there was a lot of people smarter than I was. But at the end of the day, I felt like I was willing to get in the weeds with sellers more than I think Envato was at the time. They'd already gotten to some sort of critical mass where you can't take care of people. Like, it gets much harder when you get in that mass. And I don't know how many we had at some point, but I mean, if we have 100 sellers, like, I'm going to make sure all 100 of them personally, I'm going to take care of all of them, make sure they're succeeding as much as I can. So we tried to bring like things like that, like bring a personal touch, go above and beyond what we knew like ThemeForce couldn't do at the time. They were too big. But that was kind of like where our mental state was. Is everybody we knew was building sites, and they were all using WordPress themes. So we didn't want to support them. Let's build a marketplace and let it grow. I can't tell you honestly in more detail where it came from. Like, it's kind of one of those things where you just kept working hard every day, and then it was kind of like, whoa, it's kind of working.
That's awesome.
I know. It's a pretty strange thing, actually. There was no grand business model. I would change a lot of things actually if I did it again, but
really,
but it was good.
Yeah,
it was good. I have zero complaints, and we were able to successfully sell it, and like, honestly, it was a great experience. I have no complaints about it.
Well, that's amazing and wonderful. And given that the outcome was so positive or favorable, as you say, then You know, is it too much to ask you to comment on what sort of like really big standout things you might have done differently?
Well, I think I know. I'd like to think I'm a little smarter than I was then, and I've got a little more experience under my belt. I've learned, like, in my current role, and I've spent 4 years at. I went from. Let me give some context here. When we sold MOJO, there was 3 employees, right? And then we sold to a company with thousands of employees, and $1 billion company. And I learned. I had the whole like baptism by fire thing where I learned what big companies, how they, there's tons of blessings about being small and ignorant, because you just go into it and you don't really analyze if it can or can't work, and you just think you can do it. Nowadays, I understand how to evaluate a little better if there's potential in the market. I understand business models now. I understand just even pricing models and how to forecast and how to differentiate. Like I would definitely be like, the fact that the marketplace is not recurring driven, like, was probably one of the worst decisions. I mean, you see it right now with Envato. They're trying to get there. They're still trying to get there, and it's pretty tough to just constantly sell a $49 product one time, and if you're lucky, get roughly $25 return on that. You put marketing dollars behind that, it stops adding up, and well, the math just doesn't work, especially if you get affiliates involved. The business model of the single transaction at the $49 price point is just not great. Like, there's very few people that have figured it out. You have to just resell. So coming now into the hosting industry, I've had a big eye-opening experience to another type of business model that it's just different. I mean, MOJO. I mean, you get it. Like, it compounds, it builds. You focus on keeping that customer, not so much constantly selling them.
That's fascinating. So maybe now is a good time for us to finish the story, if you will, like get us from the point of, or maybe a little bit, comment on that process of selling MOJO, which you said at 3 employees at the time?
Mm-hmm.
Not
3 employees. Well, I mean, I guess it's not totally accurate, but it is accurate. So how it worked was, well, yeah, I mean, that was it. So back in, goodness, it was 4 years ago. So 2014. I always get the dates wrong. 2013. No, it was December 31st of 2013. So we ran MOJO for 3.5 years or so, and bootstrapped, did it all ourselves. We were doubling revenue every year, and the business was growing well. Bluehost was a big brand. It is a big brand in our community where we're from, and we'd known Bluehost. I mean, most tech startups here in Utah, at least in northern Utah and Salt Lake area, they know Bluehost. Anyway, I got an email. I was actually on vacation one day with my family in California, and I got an email from vice president of something at Bluehost. I can't remember who it was, and basically saying, "Hey, this is so and so from Bluehost. We're interested in having conversations about a partnership or potential acquisition with your marketplace. If you're open with that, we really want to expand the marketplace and grow that opportunity there." And I was like, again, at that time of my life, I was just kind of like, we were just kind of going day to day. Like I think most entrepreneurs are, or small businesses. You just kind of do it day in and day out. And then I got that email, and I instantly called Jay and was like, "Dude, Bluehost just emailed me. Check this out." And so then that was in, I think, August or July. And we had, at that time, so Bluehost was already owned by Endurance. And really the acquisition was led, sorry, I need to mute more of these things. let's see. Sorry, I'm going to mute this. This is annoying. The acquisition was very much led from Bluehost initially, and but then throughout the fall, we had conversations with the partnership team and the business development team here at Endurance, and decided to, take the plunge, and we signed December 31st. Of 2013.
Wow. That's great. That must have been a pretty exciting time, and and I had no idea that it was something you didn't initiate in any way. You weren't even, it wasn't really on your radar.
We weren't even thinking about it, honestly. I mean, I think every tech startup, like, you read TechCrunch or something and you're like, whoa, like someone just sold for 200 million, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You have those conversations, but again, we were just like two dudes that just wanted to hustle and just continue to make it better every day. I mean, we were very much a product guys, and we just wanted, like, we were really head down on just trying to make the product better and better and better and better.
Yeah.
And then you just got that email one day. And again, that's another perspective that I've since learned. Like, you can't just always be head down. Like, there's specific roles that leadership needs to, like, be able to pull their head up, and it's hard to, like, every day I want to get back in the code and, like, go build something. And like, I realize if I do that, I'll probably let my team down and fail at my job. But it's just part of, like, the different job, just because there's just different roles that people need to be doing, and having a leadership role or being able to pull your head up and maybe be more focused on the strategy or the roadmap or other things become much more important.
Sure.
So that's like part of the things that change.
Yeah. Wow. So your role right now is quite different. You're doing something else. So tell us a little bit about the transition into VP of Product at Bluehost.
Yeah. So how do I say this? So JR and I, we co-led MOJO for about 3.5 years after the acquisition. So it just passed the 4-year anniversary, and then there was this transition period where it was like, okay, like, one of you is going to go run with the marketplace and lead it, and someone else is going to go do this. And we just, through the course of figuring out what made sense, JR stayed on leading the marketplace, and there became basically an opportunity. And MOJO and Bluehost are very much tied at the hip as far as the customers. MOJO's core business is all founded from, like, Bluehost customers. Like, it really is, at least for a bulk of them. And so it made sense to me. I felt like transitioning over onto the Bluehost product gave me a way to still work on MOJO and try and make MOJO even better, but also learn something new and change the pace, so to speak. I've always been really passionate about Bluehost. I was a customer. I've probably been a customer 10 years. Customer way before I ever worked here. All my client sites from way back in the day were always on Bluehost. So I care a lot about the brand, and I have a lot of ideas that I wanted to see executed at the brand. So that's really why I started transitioning over and was talking with some of the leadership at Endurance, and made the decision to pull the trigger to come over and run the product team, and I also run the customer experience team. So I really it's important to me to figure out how to change the perception of hosting. And I think that word is slowly going away, but I don't want to see our business go away. And so that's the problem I'm solving, is how to answer the solution for the customers without focusing so much on the technology. That's kind of the big problem I see that we have going forward.
When did you start this new role again?
I think officially it was November-ish, somewhere in there.
Okay.
About 4 months ago.
Sure. So that's really what I'm curious about, is what you were just commenting on, and maybe we could dive in a little bit deeper. But you saw things that needed doing in this role, You saw maybe what changes you would like to make or things you'd like to improve upon, a pathway ahead. And so that's what I really want to understand, what your vision is. Like, I love this brand, as you said, and you want to move it forward in the right direction. So, tap me in a little bit to your thought process about like what your opportunities are and how you can really make it happen for Bluehost.
The funny thing, for those listening, and Mike Hansen, who works for Bluehost, also he works for me, and he's one of my favorite people to carpool with. And I purposely actually try and carpool with Mike because, and I'm guessing some of the people listening to your podcast might know him because I think he literally goes to about every WordCamp possible. But
he's great.
I purposely try and pick Mike up, and Mike is one of the people in my life where if I just get in a car and I can just get a half hour, we just start talking about ideas, and we both have a passion to see WordPress, or to see Bluehost and WordPress succeed, and how do we bring that together? And so literally, like, even that shirt you're wearing, the WP Bluehost Stage and Create, Mike and I literally dreamt up that idea as we were carpooling to the office one day, just talking about, like, staging should not be a hard thing. And we wanted to support Daniel and what he's doing with WPC Live project. And we're thinking, oh, it would be so cool. Why don't we start creating some of our own WPC Live commands? We have our plugins that get auto installed. So these plugins can just interact with WPC Live and create staging environments from that. And then if a developer wants to use it, they easily have a nice command line interface for it, yada, yada. And then we literally just come up with it. And it was that type of thinking that I wanted to see at Bluehost again. I was personally feeling like it was missing that, just kind of like creativity and like someone that's in that space day in, day out and thinking, like, what do we need? And how can we put it out really quick and simple? And so that's really where a lot of the ideas came from. And I don't know if one other example is, so we recently rolled out all new WordPress sites have PHP 7 free SSLs, like most WordPress hosts have recently done also. And again, Mike and I were talking on a carpool, and also then I don't have to get stuck in traffic. I can go in the carpool lane, which makes it better. But we're sitting there talking, and we're like, you know what? Our customers just don't. I actually just wrote a blog post about this on my blog, but on BradyNord.com for my shameless plug. But our customers in the hosting space, I'll say the shared hosting space, they don't understand what a CSR is, what a certificate is, all this stuff related to SSL certificates. Like, you watch a novice customer try and come into Bluehost, and what they want, or what some affiliate sold them on, is a WordPress website. And they come in there, and watching them navigate and try and understand what to do and how to have it secure and performant and XYZ, it's so, like, your blood just starts boiling. And then you start listening to phone calls of what these customers go through. And I sit there, I'm actually going to spend the next 2 days in our call center just listening to calls, and I'm forcing our product team to go down there to do the same thing. Because this is where it all circles back for me, is our customers are less and less technical, and they want to just get online. And WordPress has hit such a large magnitude that a friend or some affiliate, and there's so much energy around WordPress, they somehow stumble across WordPress. Then they come over to Bluehost, and they get recommended there. And the experience I've got to create for them, and the Bluehost team has to create for, is how do we get them into WordPress and get them succeeding? So that's really the big thing, and it's all about I was going on a rant to Mike about this, and Mike's like, why don't we just make on-off switches? I said, yes, that's what we need. And so you'll see, if you are a customer on Bluehost, you go into our WordPress tool section, you select any of your WordPress sites, and underneath that WordPress site, there's an SSL thing right there, and you can just say on or off. Customer doesn't have to deal with any type of certificates. They don't have to contact support. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to pay for them. And we're rolling out a new CDN right now, and we're going to take that same logic where customer just needs to say, yes, I want it, or no, I don't, and just click it on or click it off. That's really, to me, where where we've lost market share to Wix and Squarespace and these types of builders is they've really simplified it. And the hosting community, that's where we're getting left behind. And that's really, I guess, my vision of where I want the product to go is my mom can go to Bluehost and succeed in launching a WordPress site. I think that's really the goal of it. And I think that's why Matt's taking the approach that he's doing.
I can't help but think that for a company as large as Bluehost that you're working for, the fact that a couple guys can brainstorm in a car ride and then just go execute some ideas that you just came up with because you're passionate is pretty cool. A lot of large organizations really struggle with being able to just rapidly introduce great ideas like that.
It's true. I mean, I'm not saying that it's easy, because it's not, but it's important to us to be, it's important to us to be the best WordPress host out there. And there's great competition out there. And honestly, like, I do what I can to make sure it gets across the line. Part of that is helping people understand the community and like WordPress as a whole. Like, if our development team here understands, look, every other host out there is giving, I generalize when I say this, but every other host out there is giving free SSLs, and we're not. And we're recommended as a host, like, we need to step up and get this done. Like, it's not like an option. And so having some of that helps raise the bar a little bit. And but yeah, like you say, it's not easy.
Well, it's pretty cool. You guys are routinely introducing some pretty exciting features. And so you alluded to Matt and some of the things he's pushing for and some of the statements he's made recently. Matt, being the kind of the main guy steering this whole WordPress ship. And so we were both there watching him give a presentation last 2 months ago and talk about how what got us here isn't going to get us there. And when he said that, I'm sure most of us were like, sure, yeah, I'm with you. And then he describes, he segues into his plan for changing the release cycles for WordPress. And so how do you feel about that being like the quote unquote solution, or the right direction for evolving the software?
I've thought a lot about this, and this is what I toil with, I think, most often, because I have the same struggles that we're trying to solve at Bluehost, where if a customer can't publish, they ultimately will churn out. Like, that's what they come here for. Matt's solving that same problem. If a customer can't publish, they're going to stop using WordPress. And so I very much see the same trends. I see the importance of simplifying and making a better publishing experience. I think it's hard when you're dealing with like client work, where maybe you build a site for them and you hand it off to them, and you have time to go sit down with them and maybe show them how it works, or you can have time or have a desire to even learn how a theme works. Things like that is different. But when you get, especially at Matt's level, where he's trying to think, how does 27% of the internet, how can we help them publish more? Or us, or any other host out there, like, if a customer doesn't publish, they just leave. They leave our brand and they leave the product. So a lot of what we're doing at Bluehost is very central. It's all built around that, and we're completely redesigning our control panel. And I even hate calling it a control panel. I don't think of it as a control panel, because I think that instantly makes you think of cPanel. And you think of like a bunch of rows and skittles on a page, and you figure out which icon to click.
Yeah. Like
that is like hosting 10 years ago, and that is what I'm trying to avoid. And as I think about the future of Bluehost, I'm planning for a May or June release of our new experience, And it is 100% focused on WordPress. It is focused on, you could, it's very safe to say, we're very much becoming a exclusive WordPress host. And how do we tailor that to be a great experience? How do we get the right products in front of the customer to where they see value in them, not because we're selling them, but because it's something that helps them succeed? How do we get them into their site publishing easier? How do we just make sure their stuff just is always working? It's always backed up. Plugins are up to date. Security's in place. All those things, I'm trying to take that out of the consumer's hands. Not take it out of their hands, but I guess make them not have to think about it. I was actually at lunch the other day with the Squarespace team and was picking their brains on how they release. And if I guess don't quote me on this, but I want to say all their sites come with CDNs by default. They're on SSLs. There are things that are kind of like table stakes in that builder space, in that drag and drop builder space, that us on the WordPress side, we're asking consumers to go figure out how to go add an SSL. We're asking them to go figure out how to configure a SiteLock CDN or a Mac CDN or whatever CDN you like. These things are not simple, and let alone trying to help them understand why they even need it is really like, that's where I'm keep coming back to. So I think Matt's really focused on the publishing experience, which is I fully agree with. It's hard for a customer to get into the data I've seen. It's hard for customers to go into WP Admin, click create a new post or create a new page, and they see the WYSIWYG, and it's hard to visualize how what I put into that WYSIWYG is going to come out on the front end of that page, and how do I make it look right? Like, that is like, we've all seen like a million short codes. We've all seen like Visual Composer and some of those things. Like, there's lots of ways that these are evolving. I think what Matt's trying to do is get ahead of it and try and standardize it, because right now we have no standard. And so that part I do agree with. I want to see that it's open, and like the community, the open source community of WordPress can still like build on it. But I like that it's getting standardized. I hope it is, at least. I don't know that. And then on the Bluehost side is what I'm trying to figure out is, customer comes in, they sign up for WordPress hosting. How do we put them into a WordPress site and they actually understand? Like, so they log into their control panel or account center or whatever we want to call this new experience. When they click log into WordPress, how do we log them in to where it makes sense of what to do? And they like, all of us experts, we all know it. It's common sense, but you go ask any of our moms, I'm guessing, and I say this very blanket, like, they don't know. They go in there and they don't know what to do. You see pages, and that one makes sense, but like, it's just how do I navigate this? It's overwhelming. So anyway, that's really, I'm trying to help bring the customer to a better editor, and I'm hoping Matt and the Automatic team and the open source team can help bring together a really nice editor, so we can kind of start coming together on that. To me, we have to do that for WordPress to get to the next level. Right? Otherwise, we have to educate all these novice users, and hopefully they want to be educated on how it works today. I don't know another way around it.
Man, there's so much in there to talk about.
I know. I'm sorry. I honestly, my mind starts going on it, and I have a million ideas around that.
Well, I love it. I love it. This is exactly what I want to talk about, and I've got like just a couple of things to ask you more. Like one, when you're at a technology company like this, you alluded to it a little bit in the blog post that you mentioned, which I read on BradyNord.com. The fact that you're a technology company, but you're in this position, and you mentioned it being that it's changed over time, where selling the tech is not really the way to go anymore. We have to sell the sizzle, not the steak, if you will. Maybe customers, as you said, want to be able to publish. They want a web presence. They don't want or care about the tech. And it must be hard as a tech company to be producing amazing things, to be making innovations that your end customer really could care less about, because that's not what they're coming to you and paying you money for. So do you see this as like an inevitable shift? Like, there's no turning back. We are moving in this direction where, as a hosting company, You just have to accept that you're selling something, you're selling technology that serves a customer's end.
I don't know that it's that black and white. I really believe if you, I'm getting a bad echo there, but you want to mute it or whatever? So I was going to say, I really believe that if you write good software and put out a good product, the customer doesn't need to know about the tech. Like the customer realizes there's tech there when things start breaking or they have to figure something out. But we all know Apple products, and whether you like Apple or not, like that's like what, that's everybody's like North Star, it seems like, as far as we all know there's probably a lot of tech. I mean, I just got these new headphones here, and there's a ton of tech just even in the stupid little headphone case. But I'm not thinking about, I'm sure there's some sort of computer chip in here that powers this and charges this. But I would never as a consumer think about, like, it just works. Like what I wanted is headphones that just work. And I believe people, when they want a website, they just want a website. Like, I think we romance, like, yeah, it's great to have like PHP 7 on, or the latest technology or the latest security, and that's all badass and cool, and we really care. That was kind of what my blog post about. But we care in the industry, or we care if we work around it. But I don't believe the customer really even gives a crap. They just want it to work, and it's got to solve their needs. One example of this, actually, I went to breakfast down the street today with a guy that his name's Ken. He's the head of our product and development organization at Endurance Wide. And we went to breakfast. I looked up the customer's website because I needed the address. And I wish I knew it off the top of my head. But anyway, it's this little cafe named like Joe's Cafe or something, literally. And I looked at his website, and the website, there was a 2-page website. There was a big home page, and then there was an about page, and there was only 2 nav elements on it. And the second I hit the site, I was like, whoa. I was impressed by the design of the site, because Joe is like this harsher, not harsh. He's a cook that's like, he's big personality. He, by all intensive, or by all sense, or by appearance, he looks nothing like a tech guy. He could care less about how he built his website. And I'm definitely assuming this. But anyway, go to his site, and it's a beautiful homepage. It's got all these awesome images. The fonts all look great. He's got his menu on there, and it's like the alignment, the line height, everything looks sharp. And his map, his contact us, all this stuff. And I was scrolling down, and I was like, whoa, Joe. And I've been there one time before, and this, I mean, he's the kind of guy that comes out and meets everybody at the table. Everybody meets the cook kind of guy. But it's a little breakfast joint. And my first thought was, what kind of website is this? Like, I'm impressed that Joe has a nice looking site. And I look at the source, and it's a Squarespace site. And I instantly realized, like, I didn't realize, but I instantly grabbed Mike, my brainstormer, and I actually grabbed JR yesterday, and I said, this is our problem that we need to solve in WordPress. I can't go to Joe and say, Joe, go get on WordPress because it's the best platform out there. And go sign up on a hosting account and build your site. I almost guarantee he would not get it as nice as he had his site. And I said, guys, this is the problem we need to solve. He's not going to go pay a developer, an agency, whatever, X amount of dollars to build it. We need to provide a solution that is simple enough that someone like Joe in his little cafe can build it. I truly believe that is where, when I say we're simplifying the hosting industry, it's really about powering for Bluehost specifically. It's how do we simplify the WordPress experience? That's what we're focused on. How do we let people log in, have a theme that's easy, intuitive, and provides the look and feel they want, and they can make it feel like their own, and they publish and they're on. Like, let us get out of the way and let us make something very simple. So back to how to tech, like, if we can we've made amazing software if we can do that. I really believe that. It's the hard part is you don't see it. And that's probably more ego than anything, but the customer, I believe, will be happier.
Amazing. And that's a great story.
I know. I'm actually going to share the link here. I don't know if you have a way to put it on there. It's just joescafeorum.com.
Awesome.
Anyway,
okay.
Take a look at it. You'll understand. Like when we can give that site, when he can sign up and publish a site like that within an hour or two on WordPress, then I think we've made it.
It's a great illustration. So another thing I'm curious about with regard to these builders, the builder brands that you're referring to, do you think it's really, and I'm echoing just a little bit, but do you think it's really all about the tech? Like by that I mean the fact that a lot of customers are adopting this, and it's the biggest threat to the solution we favor at this time. The fact that this is a big deal right now, is it all just because this technology now exists, this ability for customers to create something compelling on their own without dealing with the technology we've been used to? Is this a big deal only because it's the first time this technology has existed, or do you think there's anything more behind this, like any cultural shifts and maybe a decline in the appreciation for extra control and doing it yourself and owning your data and things like that? Other just like cultural changes resulting in larger numbers of consumers being drawn to this alternative solution that's, objectively more convenient.
I honestly, like, one thing, they're spending ad dollars, so there's an awareness involved. You go back 5 years, who was spending ad dollars on build your website with X platform? You maybe like 1 and 1 or something, but like that's kind of more, it's kind of a weird example. I mean, you saw it like with GoDaddy with domains. Who knew how to get a domain 5 years ago, or maybe longer, 10 years ago? Like the average consumer. 10 years ago, they say, I want to have a .com. Where would they think to go? Like they just know the GoDaddy Super Bowl commercials, right? So there's like the whole awareness part where and Matt actually alluded to this in I think his search for the Growth Council at WordPress, but these builders are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars just getting the awareness out. And the thing that's interesting is I totally agree with your point of owning your data, owning your content, owning like WordPress, at least on the .org side, you own that. You can do what you want with it, right? It's your stuff, as long as the hosting account, I guess. Maybe there's hosts out there, I don't know, that say that they own it also, but generally speaking, you own it. And I honestly don't know on the .com side how that works out. I'm guessing you own it on that too, but regardless, what was I even getting at? Oh, I don't think the average consumer even thinks about that. I don't think they create a website and think, do I own this? Because anytime I've actually had many conversations about that, because that was going to be I thought a lot about how do we differentiate? And I was thinking, okay, like we say that it's an open platform, that you own your content. And we started talking amongst employees and we're like, we never really thought about it, but like you go to these builders, like you're stuck there. You can't. If you're a business, see the average consumer actually, I think, like the mom, not the mom, the average just individual that wants to build a blog, I don't think they're really thinking about that. But if you get like a maybe slightly successful company and they want to take their web presence to the next level and they have any type of web savvy, they're going to want their destiny of their website in their hands. And some small mom and pop like a Joe, he's not thinking, I don't own this. Nor does he probably care. He just wants to make good omelets, right? But the other guy over here, if you're a tech company, you want to know that you can go switch on to Google Cloud if you want tomorrow you have that option, or that you can scale it however you want. You have that option. So I only think like people that are like really successful and people that have like that much business savvy are actually thinking about that, which is sad because I don't want to go take a. I think it'd be a weird waste, a weird spend, or what am I trying to say? A weird use of money to go spend money on. Hey, with us, you own your data. Like it's almost like it's a weird ad campaign to push like own your data. With them, you don't own it. I don't know. To me, it doesn't resonate. But when you explain it to people, they're like, oh yeah, that's a good point. But I don't know. I'd rather highlight how awesome the product is rather than like it's almost kind of out of fear. It's like I'd rather have them want it because it's a great solution rather than they buy it out of fear. I don't know. There's a lot. I have a lot of ideas around that. I don't know the right answer, but I think that I honestly think it comes back to the awareness. I think these companies raising a lot of money, and they have a lot of money to spend, and WordPress has grown just all this organic word of mouth type structure. Bluehost is actually like one of our big commitments right this year is we're actually going to be doing mainstream media with WordPress. Not necessarily in partnership about them, but about get your WordPress site at Bluehost as a way to help. We do have a large marketing budget here, and it's important to us to see WordPress succeed. So as part of our commitment, that's one of those things is to hopefully this year you're going to see some pretty cool Bluehost commercials, and you see the WordPress.com commercials this year also. So I think we have to go that way, unfortunately, because only the big dogs can really help contribute to that. But anyway, I guess that's my 2 cents on it.
That's a lot of great insight. Thanks. So we're kind of actually running short on time here, and I want to be respectful of that. So yeah. I've got just kind of a couple wrap up questions. Really, it's been an awesome discussion. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to the rest of 2017. Where might somebody bump into you, Brady?
Honestly, I have to say I'm most excited for WordCamp Europe. I applied to speak. I hope I get it. If not, no worries. We're going to have the Bluehost team out there. We're going to go to. I'm looking forward to go to Pressnomics. I've always enjoyed that. MOJO sponsors that, and I'm going to go down there to, I guess meet up with old friends and see, talk to the community a bit. But so going there, trying to get to more WordCamps this year. I just spend a ton of time. As most people know, we're building a big support operation down in Phoenix, and that's a big initiative that's going on right now. So I'm down there about every 2 to 3 weeks. So just making sure new support agents. This is one of those things. So I was mentioning earlier, like it's so important to Bluehost that these new support agents know and care about WordPress like more than anything. Like I've sat and talked with trainers that they need to teach WordPress as much as they teach email support or domain management or whatever, some of the basic hosting stuff. But like I really want to nail down how we train for WordPress, things like that. So anyway, just trying to help the culture and build the brand up. So I'm all over. I'm busy, but it's all good.
Super, super cool. What are some of the things you like to do with your spare time, Brady?
I have 3 kids, a big mountain dog, a Bernese mountain dog, and so my wife and I, honestly, my kids are young, so spend a lot of time with the family. But I do really enjoy every Sunday. Every Sunday, my brother-in-law Tim, who actually works at MOJO now, but we go on a big hike up in the mountains, and I just bought a trail cam. I've never been a hunter, but I bought a trail cam, and we go up in the mountains here in Utah. And we just this last Sunday, we put a trail cam up on top of this. It's called Mount Olympus. It's just a way to kind of get out and decompress, get some exercise, and maybe see, like, we ran into a big deer herd and stuff this last time. But so I like to get out in the out, kind of take a break from all of this work stuff, recharge a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Do you have any good suggestions for people I might invite on the show in the future as guests?
Absolutely. One person I know I've been touting Mike a lot, but Mike and I, Mike's got a lot of really good plugin experience he's probably got one of the most distributed plugins that's not distributed that's not through .org and stuff. But anyway, Mike Hansen would be a great resource to talk about plugins and distributed software in general. He's got a lot of experience with that. Corey Miller's always been a longtime friend of mine. Everybody, I think, in the whole world knows Corey.
Yeah.
But he's been a great friend. But I mean, there's plenty of people that are awesome.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we're approaching 3 years of this show, and I've never repeated a guest every single week, just about. So, and I'm not even getting close to.
I don't know if you've had Matt, but like, obviously, he's always an interesting one. He's a good one to get.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. So great suggestions. Awesome discussion, Brady. I'm so grateful that you took the time to talk with me and just open up about your interesting story and your take. You have a unique perspective on everything that we're all experiencing in this industry. And so I very much appreciate you sharing your insight and taking the time to join me. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Well, we'll talk to you real soon, Brady. And this has been episode 133. See everybody next week.